coming to you from the mountains and the plains. The only conservative voices brave enough to push back. This is the Conservative Daily Podcast with Joe Altman.
That's what the Second Amendment was designed to do. If you're going to do something to nullify or take away my rights under the Constitution, come get it.
Max McGuire.
When you look at politicians on the left, they need to convince people that they are victims.
A resistance to the resistance. And now your hosts, Joe Altman and Max McGuire.
And welcome back to another edition of the Conservative Daily Podcast. My name is Max McGuire.
And this is Joe Altman.
And today we were supposed to have an interview with Artisha Balmer, but the woman from the Michigan hearing with the Trump cowboy hat. It was all set up, but unfortunately she got basically pulled away for something. So we're hoping to bring that to you tomorrow. So apologies for that. We had it all lined up, and then something came up on her end. So we're hoping that we can have her on tomorrow. But today we're going to basically talk about what the left is doing to pretty much anyone who comes forward and alleges fraud. So for weeks they've been saying there's no evidence of fraud, that anyone who says that there's any evidence of fraud is a liar, a conspiracy theorist. Yesterday, Donald Trump gave a 46-minute speech, and CNN refused to cover it at all. Refused to cover it at all because they said it was conspiracy theory. Well, everything he said in that speech is backed up by sworn affidavits. As we mentioned on the show in the past, Joe is one of the affiants involved with Sidney Powell's lawsuits against Dominion. There's lots of people who've come forward and who have presented eyewitness or ear witness testimony, and they're just being completely discounted. So we're gonna play a few clips and get Joe's take on it. Talk to him about some of the backlash he's receiving, because obviously he had to go into, not hiding, but he had to go into a sabbatical last week.
Everybody hit the share button.
Yeah, hit the share button, and make sure that also check us out on Apple Podcasts. Subscribe, give us a good review if you can. Also, other links for different places you can receive the audio version of the podcast as well. There was a woman, I don't know if you watched this show. There was a woman in Michigan, elected official. Let's go ahead and put up image one. Her name is Cynthia A. Johnson. Literally, her acronym is C.A. Johnson. Interesting initials for parents to give. Cia Johnson. But this is a quote from her Michigan House, basically, bio. She says, "I have immense pride in Detroit, and for the continued growth of our community, we must hold our leaders accountable." As we've covered on the show in the past, Detroit is entirely Democrat-run. It has been Democrat-run for decades. Wayne County is Democrat-run. I want to set that tone because we're going to play a couple of clips from this woman, and she is in the majority party. Well, not in the legislature, but Democrats control Detroit. And it's just so interesting that she says that so proud of our community, and we need to hold our leaders responsible when it's Democrat-run. So we're going to play a couple of clips. She thought she had the upper hand on some witnesses yesterday and got smacked down. But I do think it's interesting, Joe, that if affiants, people who signed affidavits, if they were lying, if they were making it up, then they would just be ignored, right? The more the left pushes back on it, the more terrified they are of the allegations gaining ground.
Yeah.
If someone truly is spouting off conspiracy theories or lying to you, you let them dig their own grave and you laugh at them. That's what you do to conspiracy theorists. When you hear someone actually credibly giving evidence of fraud, we're seeing Democrats starting to come down on anyone who speaks up, trying to ruin their lives, not because they're conspiracy theorists. Yeah, bullying, not because they're conspiracy theorists, but because they're terrified of what they're saying actually getting out. So I want to give you a chance before we get into the clips to talk about what you've experienced, because obviously now you have security on you. As we mentioned last week, you had to not leave, but go on a little hunting sabbatical just to get out of town for a little bit. Yeah. Talk about some of the threats and some of the hassles that you've been having to deal with since you signed the affidavit.
So I'm a different guy. So I was on the phone with a couple of people, and one of the people that actually called me was a journalist here in Colorado. And I want to say this because I think that this kind of just, it shows you just frankly how emboldened they think they are to people that they can intimidate. But he goes, Joe, you're nuclear. He goes, you just need to know that you're nuclear. You're a different guy. Like, I sit in rooms with journalists and they don't want to write a story about you. They don't want to write a story about you because you will come after them. You will sue them. You will make sure you hold them accountable. And frankly, you have just been too loud for us. So he actually said, look, I wanted to write a story about you, even like a positive story. And I thought about it for a minute and I'm like, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to put myself out there. So I am leading with courage. I mean, I signed the affidavit. It's 100% true. 100% of what I wrote in that affidavit is true. And for the first 3 or 4 days after we did our segment, it was pretty heavy, right? It was heavy with hang up on phone calls, people actually saying that they want to kill me. I had a long conversation with someone that said, it was hilarious. He goes, you better watch yourself. We're coming for you. We're going to kill you. And I was like, how are you going to do it?
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm going to hang you. And I was like, well, my dad's black. My mom's black. That's kind of racist. And he's like, what? I actually had a conversation with someone that said he wanted to kill me. And I was like, yeah, man, you got to come up with a more clever way to do it than that. Yeah, you better watch yourself. Okay, I'm watching myself. I need a mirror to watch myself. So the way that I've handled it, I mean, obviously, I do have a couple guys that protect me and my family. There's a guy with binoculars on the building across watching our office, watching when we pulled up. We've had cars that have followed us around. Just really creepy stuff, right? And so now, there's just things that we do as precautions. When I go speak anywhere, I wear a vest. Everyone is vetted when they come in. We get information from everyone that walks in, which I'm doing some of those speaking engagements pretty regularly. And even next Thursday, I have another one. So, and then frankly, it's just a constant barrage of people that feel like they can attack me or attack my business. And so this morning, one of those little trolls actually attacked someone in our company. And so as a result of attacking someone in our company, a totally different kind of a backdoor, we filed a lawsuit this morning against that person in that company. And the thing that came out, I just sent him a text message that said, I sent him a thing on whatever his Instagram, and I was like, normally I stay out of the fray, but I'm not going to stay out of the fray. I don't like bullies and I don't like S-bags. You figure out what I meant by when I said it. I spelled that out. And I go, and if you're looking for someone that's going to back down, you've actually come to the wrong place. I will not back down. And you're going to have to write us a big check. And then when I'm done with you writing us a big check, I'm going to put it out there so that everyone knows you had to write a big check. The same way that I did that journalist that came after us 6 months ago when we tried to, stand up and create constitutional integrity for our state. So, yeah, so it's been fun. Not really.
It's fun. It's fun in the sense that you know that you're onto something, because if you weren't onto something, they'd ignore it. Right. The media isn't covering your story, as you just mentioned. The news isn't covering it. As I said, Donald Trump gave a 46-minute speech. CNN, MSNBC, NBC, even Fox didn't air the whole thing. Not interested. They're saying, nope, these are unproven conspiracy theories. So if what you were saying wasn't true, they would just let you continue to talk.
Right.
It's when they come down on you. That's when, listen, there's an old saying from World War II fighter pilots that the flak is heaviest when you're right above the target. The anti-aircraft fire is the most intense right as you're about to drop your bombs. So as that increases, you know that you're right over the target. So if you were just making things up, if you were saying things that had no credibility, they just leave you alone. They wouldn't go out on a limb and threaten you, because when they threaten you, they're breaking the law. That's criminal what they're doing. And we've talked on the show about what people have done to Tig and Tig's wife. So they're breaking the law. They're committing crime. So you know that you're close. You know that you are hitting a nerve, and you know that they wouldn't do this unless they were actually fearful that they were about to be found out, which is a great segue into some of the clips I want to play. There is a woman, as I said, her name is Cynthia A. Johnson, C.A. Johnson. If I was ever to name someone, I would never give them initials and a last name that would in any way sound like a euphemism for seeing someone's genitalia. But she was named C.A. Johnson. and we take what we're given. So I'm not going to make fun
I
of her.
I don't know why you did that, but
Well,
I mean,
because on her thing, on her placard, it says C.A. Johnson. It's very strange.
I don't. We're actually. You know what, Max? We're gonna get banned over this. This is gonna be the thing that we die on. Is this comment here?
Yeah, not the other stuff. So this is the one that's been making the rounds, where C.A. Johnson actually goes out and accuses witnesses of lying.
Yeah.
It's a minute-ish clip, but she's just completely argumentative. I want to play that whole thing. Let's go ahead and play cut 2.
Did you see any cameras at the TCF Center? All right, so.
And Representative, I just want to remind you, I think it was the purpose of today's hearing to hear from people across Michigan who witnessed things at the TCF Center. That's why we're here.
Well, here, and I'm not going to argue with you about that. Okay, so they're here, but they're taking so much time, and I see no Detroiters. There is one Detroiter. Stop that.
Please continue, Representative.
And there is one Detroiter, but I have many emails. Since there's no one who you have in this room to represent Detroiters, except a couple of us in this room, I have emails from Detroiters. We've taken, what, 2 hours?
Did you have a question? I'm willing. Please stop yelling. People in the audience, let me handle this. Representative, listen, we've had hearings in the past, as you know. We'll have more hearings. Today, we've invited Mr. Giuliani, and Mr. Giuliani has brought forward witnesses that he says have firsthand knowledge of fraud. That's what we are doing today.
And if we want to find out if...
Please let me finish.
Yes.
All right. So if you want to do other hearings, we're doing more hearings. But today we're here to hear from these people. So do you have a question for these witnesses?
No, I have some concerns, right. Well, many concerns, and I want to just share with you
out of order.
What
right?
the concerns
out of order.
are.
Do you have a point of order?
I'm sorry?
Do you have a point of order?
Yes.
What is your point of order?
Point of order is to have them under oath.
You're out of order. As I've said, this is something that is not done here in this state. It's really only...
it may not be done under the state, but you're allowing people to come in here and lie, and I know they're lying.
Oh my gosh!
Representative, you're out of order. I've indulged you, but you're out of order, and we're.
So, I am a nerd when it comes to Robert's Rules of Order.
Yep.
And I love it when people are on these committees and they don't actually understand. He's like, "Do you have a point of order?" "Yeah, I have a point of order." "I don't like what's happening here." That's not a point of order. You can't just say that. But when she calls them liars right to their face, stunning. And you don't do that. You don't risk your reputation, your credibility, and going out on a limb like that unless you're really afraid of what they're going to say. You don't shout down people if what they're saying is false. You shout down the people who you're afraid are making headway. And that bit, we're going to play a second part of it.
Let me,
I want to get your reaction to it.
Yeah, can I say this? I was fine.
Yeah.
I was fine before all this happened. I was fine. My business was fine, right? I didn't have any.
You don't have Sia Johnson coming after you.
But the point is that I didn't. It doesn't benefit me to come forward. If Biden goes into office, do I think we're going to have a tough 4 years? Yes, I do. But if the American voice was that Biden was elected, we would all have to accept it. Coming forward is not fun for me. It has not been fun for my family. It's been an immense amount of stress, right? People are like, "Oh, it's really good. You have notoriety." I didn't want notoriety. I've given away money every single year, hundreds of thousands of dollars every year to inner city youth, to education programs. I do that. I didn't need this. I sit on boards that are left-leaning so I can bring some sensibility of a different point of view. They accept me there. I'm getting calls from people that are on those boards going, "Joe, I don't agree with you, but hey, listen, I'm really happy that you're standing up. You're the guy that has courage." And I find it very difficult to question your integrity or who you are as a person because of all the things that you've done your entire life to stay consistent. And so I look at this woman saying that they're liars, and I just want to, I get angry because we're literally saying that these thousands of affidavits, not 1 or 2 or 5, thousands of affidavits are untrue. The guy that actually drove ballots down from New York City to Philadelphia. Yeah. How do you explain that? How do you explain away that? And
how do you explain that there are ballots in Georgia that were printed in New York?
Oh, it's up.
But how do you explain that there are ballots in Georgia that were printed in New York, but there's no approved ballot printer in New York?
Right.
How do you explain that? I mean, there's lots of weird stuff of these cross-state, interstate movement of ballots.
Yeah.
And listen, we're going to play a clip in a little bit where they ask someone why more people aren't coming forward. Well, if I knew I was going to have to sit there and there's going to be a big Johnson coming down on me, I wouldn't want to sit there and speak my truth.
But that's
Who
not the point.
Who would want to do that?
The point is that they loaded up these offices, these tabulation centers, right, with Our Revolution guys. They are Our Revolution. They're people that actually go to these Our Revolution meetings, which are communists, right? They are openly communist, socialist environments, right? Openly. They're not pretending anymore, Max. I mean, you have people like me that are standing up. I didn't stand up and say, I think that you don't have a right to be a communist. Be a communist. I stood up and said, you don't have a right to put your finger on the election. And Eric Coomer did that. Eric Coomer is an anti-American Antifa member. That's Eric Coomer. Yeah. That's what he is, right? And that's the guy that runs our elections, that holds the that holds the patents for Dominion, that's a large shareholder, that is literally the guy pulling the strings, but sits in a position as a director of strategy and security, whose name is touted everywhere, that they stand up, even in Georgia, stood him up literally in a lawsuit that started in 2019. I find it absolutely disgusting that the mainstream media is actually backing this charade, that there's no fraud. Yeah. This is and they lie about everything. CISA said that it's the safest election ever. No, they didn't. It was a board that Dominion was on, and so was Smartmatic. It took me 5 minutes, Max.
So was the SLC, the company that actually performed the independent third-party review of Dominion.
Right.
So they're all on the board of advisors.
And we all know that they all stick together. They all flock together. Our government has become a charade. It is. They're standing up things out there that aren't even real. They're not real. And they're telling us, you have to believe this. You have to believe this. Oh, he's just actually spouting conspiracy theories. It's not a conspiracy if it's happening. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not a theory. Well, it's actually a conspiracy.
Go ahead. Before we get too far, I want to play the response because the big Johnson was coming down on this witness, and she decided that she wasn't going to take it anymore, and she was actually going to fight back against C.A. Johnson. So let's go ahead and play this real quick. Just before you get on a roll too far, I want to make sure that we keep these two clips relatively close together. Let's play cut 3.
It's really only...
it may not be done under the state, but you're allowing people to come in here and lie, and I know they're lying.
Representative, you're out of order. I've indulged you, but you're out of order, and we're going to move on.
On behalf of my witnesses, I would like to point out that every single witness we've presented here has sworn an affidavit as to all of these facts.
And so...
Representative, please. I gave you some room there, but we're going to move on. We're going to go.
May I say something, please?
Sure.
If that is what you want me to do, I would do it. And I will still repeat the exact same thing I watched. And you know what? I also want to say one thing. If it is a lie, it may change because a liar has to have a lot of memory power. If it is truth, you can ask me in the middle of the night, it'll still be the same.
All right, I'm going to...
It's an important point. It's an important point that if you're making up a story, every time you talk about it,
it changes.
It would change a little bit because you're making up. She's right. It takes a lot of power to maintain a lie, especially with the eyes of the world looking at you.
Right.
So this notion that Giuliani's correct. They all signed affidavits under oath, under penalty of prosecution, 5 years in prison if they're caught lying. They don't need to be sworn in again, recounting what is on that affidavit. That's just like a leftist smear tactic trying to besmirch their good name.
Listen, if I told you the phone call that I got yesterday about Eric Coomer, and what this person told me about Eric Coomer, it would shock you. It would scare you. Eric Coomer is the cog to the wheel. We need to continue to talk about Eric Coomer. Everyone needs to put stuff out there that's about Eric Coomer. Eric Coomer, Eric Coomer, Eric Coomer. Eric Coomer is actually probably listening to us. He wants all of this to go away. Why did Twitter take me down? Why did Twitter block anything that says Eric Coomer's name? Why? I mean, why did they redact it in Colorado and redact the entire document, take Eric Coomer's name out of it? Why did they actually stop you to have the ability to look for Venezuela and or Smartmatic? Why?
You couldn't do Control F searches for those words.
Why?
Yeah.
Why not? Why did they do all of these things?
Yeah.
Look, you have 74 million people minimum that actually voted for Donald Trump. You have probably 20 million or 30 million that voted for Biden, because we probably do have about a 10 or 15% stupidity rate in this country, right? But the reality is that we cannot allow this to stand. We can't. You can't have someone that has that much vitriol, that's that crazy, insane. The words that the guy used yesterday was, Eric Coomer is insane. He is a devil. That's what he said to me.
So
he's a devil.
Before we get too far, we do have someone online. We have Patty online. She's an auditor with the state of Michigan, and she wants to talk about the ID requirements in Michigan. Patty, can you hear us?
I sure can. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. So you were there on Election Day auditing things?
No, absolutely not. No, I am an auditor, and so I understand looking at statute and law because I audit income taxes, business taxes.
Okay.
So in learning how to read law and look up statute and represent the state of Michigan when we do go to the Court of Claims, Tax Tribunal, I have to provide evidence, obviously. And so one of the things I found is that one of our representatives, Mr. LeGrand, said that you don't have to show ID when you go to the voting pool in Michigan to vote. He's never had to show ID. However, MCL 168.523 specifically says that you must provide identification. If you do not, you must sign an affidavit.
Yeah. That's
okay.
A sworn
so
statement
it's the
of your
law
identity.
in Michigan. It is the law. The other thing that I wanted to bring up is that I cannot believe that with all of the voter intimidation that is going on, that we've actually allowed those votes to count in Michigan. Because there is also statute regarding the poll challengers, 168.523. Excuse me, I'm going to go back down. So 168.733 specifically says that you can't threaten or intimidate a poll challenger.
Right.
Yeah.
So the fact that they've allowed this to go on.
We played yesterday the Dr. Tarver, her testimony.
Oh my gosh, she's amazing.
2 days ago. Yeah, she was citing all the stuff just like you, right off the top of her head.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, you have here an African-American woman who works for the state of Michigan who has claimed their frauds for years. And no, we don't need more laws on the books. The Democratic leaders need to enforce the laws, period. And the fact that yesterday, oh my goodness, I don't know if you watched Mrs. Johnson, C.A. Johnson, Cynthia Johnson.
Cynthia Johnson.
Absolutely ridiculous. She was so rude. You know, one of the things that I love to hear is the third woman that was Indian that talked and said the white male poll challengers were the ones that were discriminated against and kicked out. And that's the truth. And so the minute she hit her Republican tag, they didn't say a thing to her. They thought she was one of them because she was dark-skinned. You know, well-educated, dark-skinned, oh, you must be a Democrat. You can't be a Republican. Anyway, so I'm furious. You know, in Michigan, the fact that you have a few small counties or cities that have changed the vote from Donald Trump to Joe Biden is absolutely ridiculous. In Michigan, if that's how we're going to be, I think we also need to break up the cities within Michigan and give everybody an electoral, right? So instead of just Detroit dictating
just
that
like
we're going to have Vice President Joe, right? Why do we have Joe Biden be our president just because of the Detroit area? And what? We had Mount Pleasant, or way up north, Marquette and Grand Rapids. Three areas. How?
Yeah.
Why? Unbelievable.
No, it's interesting. And let me go ahead, Joe.
How do they not explain? How do they not explain? Have to explain why someone drove from New York down to Pennsylvania. Why are they not explaining the things that they're doing in Michigan? Why are they not coming back and saying, okay, here's what happened? They're just not answering it. They're not saying anything. They're saying, oh, that's not true. That's a lie. That's it.
Well, they say they're
everything somebody
errors.
said is a lie. I signed an oath. That's what these women and men said. I signed an oath under penalty
100%.
of perjury. What I'm telling you today that I witnessed, is bad, and you're basically saying I'm lying because what? I didn't say in front of you that I am under oath right now today, Miss Johnson. Ridiculous. Yeah. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Well,
it's embarrassing.
Let me ask you this. I've been reading into this, and I listened and watched Dr. Tarver's testimony, and it seems really interesting that the people committing the fraud, or in the case of what the Democrat Party is saying, the clerical errors, are also the ones responsible for catching it. And if they don't catch it, it gets sealed in the box, and it cannot be audited. It cannot be recounted,
right?
Because they didn't catch it long enough. Obviously, you audit different things, but could you ever imagine a system where someone's responsible for filing their taxes and keeping records correctly, right? But if they don't keep the records correctly themselves and they don't catch it themselves, the state isn't allowed to review it? Can you imagine any other situation where these same logical rules apply?
Absolutely not. It is the taxpayer's responsibility to support their tax filing claim. And so it, to me, should be up to every voting election board, Eaton County. I go to this specific little township, and they should be responsible for verifying that every vote that they submit up to the top is okay and it could be certified. Once it leaves their office, right, they should be able to say, we balance. And that's one of the problems that we have here is that they weren't balancing. Why aren't they balancing? Well, they're not balancing because you have all these boxes, and people are throwing fake ballots in there.
100%.
And so they were sounds to me like the day, the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, they're sitting there and they're bringing in ballots and registering them at the time that they're counting their vote. Because they can't find them in any poll books, right, electronically or handwritten. So that individual, nobody has came into the office and registered to vote. They've just blindly dropped off a ballot. They're not registered because they're not in an electronic book and they're not in the paper book. Who are these people? Where do they come from? My recommendation, I emailed Shirky, I emailed Tom Barra, I emailed a bunch of representatives, I emailed Ms. Johnson and I don't think I did Mr. Kamalia or whatever his name was, but I emailed them all and I sent them the statutes. And one of the things I say is that any voting area that refuse to allow the Republican poll challengers to actually do their jobs, none of those votes should be counted. Not one. Once you throw them out, Donald Trump is one Michigan.
Let me ask you this. The interesting dynamic, and this is where we get into almost a circular logic of the whole thing, it's that in order for you to catch these things, there would need to be a recount. If there was a recount and things were not recountable, they wouldn't be applied to the recounted count. Correct? If the state was to have a statewide recount and they went into Detroit and said, oh, these ballots aren't recountable, they wouldn't survive the recount and they wouldn't be applied to the count, correct?
What I'm hearing, I've never been a watcher, I'm not involved in any voting. From what I hear is that if they don't balance, they can't count them. Even if you were to take the ballots out of the boxes and recount them, they've now been separated, like Giuliani said, from the envelope. So you have to, the law actually tells you, right in the law, it tells you that you have to verify on an envelope or on a piece of paper. When I go in, I sign a piece of paper. I hand them my driver's license. I hand them the paper. They look at my license, they look at my paper, and they look at the computer. Do all three signatures match? Yes. Now I'm going to give you a ballot, and you can vote in person. When you do it by mail, you get an envelope. You sign the outside of the envelope. The envelope can't be opened until they verify that envelope signature matches the signature that they have online or in a paper book. If it doesn't match, then we can't count that ballot. It should have been discarded.
So this is what's
that's
stunning
not what we're
to
hearing.
me. This is what's stunning to me. If the only way to actually toss these ballots out is in a recount, then the people committing the fraud have an incentive to commit as much fraud as possible to ensure that the statewide race or the precinct-wide race, the county-wide race, is not large enough or small enough. The margins aren't small enough to trigger an automatic recount. It just seems so strange that they have the power to stuff enough ballots in to basically destroy the margin so that a recount won't happen, and a recount's the only way you'd actually be able to kick those votes out of the total. It just, again, it seems so weird. It's like someone committing tax fraud and saying, well, I didn't file my paperwork correctly, so you can't look at that. It just seems so ridiculous.
Exactly. It is absolutely ridiculous. And the law doesn't have feelings, and that's what people don't understand. The law is the law, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't have feelings. Take the feelings out, follow the law, and we won't have any problems. And so when you have Dr. Linda Carter, she is in there saying, listen, people, we have, for years, I've been reporting fraud, and I've been setting it up. The problem is, and I've noticed this even in the taxing world, we don't do enough enforcement, and we don't hang people for the crimes they are committing. We slap them on the hands and let them get away with it again and again and again.
And they keep going back to it. They keep going back to it.
And they do.
100%. Just keep going back to it.
If you don't arrest them and make a public spectacle of them, it's going to continue to go on and on and on, and it's just never going to end. We have got to stop. We've got to find people who have, backbones. I was going to say naughty word. They have backbones that will actually do their job, right? And we have treasurers that change all the time. And when your treasurer change, some of them, they care about revenue, or they care about enforcement, or they care about just different things, right? So everybody's got a different agenda and how they're going to look good. And so the problem is that people need to stop worrying about how they look and whether or not they're going to get reelected, and following the Constitution of the United States. Catherine Henry, if you have not followed her on Facebook, you've got to follow Catherine Henry. She's a constitutional lawyer. She's absolutely amazing. If you've not ever talked to her, I suggest you talk to her. She's from Michigan.
Okay, Mr. Producer, write that name down, and we'll
Catherine
check her
Henry.
out. Thank you so much for the call.
Thank you.
Really, really eye-opening. Really do appreciate it.
And it gives us a perspective of the fact that, listen, she said something very interesting, and that is it's not emotional, right? This isn't an emotional deal. It's not it doesn't have any emotion. It's fact. I mean, there's no drama that's included in it. It's did it or did it not. It's really simple. That's the way the law is designed. It's designed to strip away emotion and get to the facts of what we're talking about, right? But they don't want to get to the facts. They don't want to actually talk about what's really happening. They want to literally stand on it and go, oh, no, they're lying, turning it into an emotional spectacle rather than actually talking about facts. And this is my problem with the media.
I got to say, though, it was pretty funny when she rattled off that first Michigan statute number. Joe, you responded, yeah. You didn't know the statute
I had no idea, but I do know that I actually read an article about it this morning.
I know, but you're like, oh yeah, that statute. Oh, this is a good one.
What are you trying to accomplish, Max? What are you trying to accomplish? I read an article about it this morning. She's talking about the same article. It's not funny. What are you trying to accomplish?
It was just funny. I'm not trying to accomplish anything.
Right.
It was just funny. So let's get back to Sia Johnson. This is a clip of her basically asking whether Rudy Giuliani is an honest person. Let's play cut 4.
Bureaucrats who made that decision.
Thank you. Representative C.A. Johnson, are you willing to make a question?
Quick question.
Sure.
Very quick. Mr. Giuliani. Hi again.
Hello.
Do you think that both you and the president are honest men?
Do I really have to answer that question?
Yes.
Representative C.A. Johnson, Representative,
answer it.
Representative, do you have a point of order?
I'm asking the question.
Representative,
I'm asking the question. Do you consider yourself Mr.
Representative, you're out of order. Out of order. Representative, you're out of order. Representative, if you want to ask a question about the election, you can ask the question. But that is not about the election. So, do you have a question about the election, Representative?
I can't because this is a show. No, I just can't.
Representative,
then leave.
Hold on, Representative. Do you really believe? Representative, do you have a question about the election? Yes. All right, then I'll turn your mic on. Ask the question about the election.
Mr. Giuliani. Oh, did you turn it off?
If you have a question about the election, ask it.
I can hear you.
Mr. Giuliani. Do you believe that the citizens of Detroit, those who have voted, feel like what you're doing today is disenfranchising or attempting to disenfranchise the citizens of Detroit?
Just the opposite. I would say that trying to
let him
separate
answer.
the honest from the dishonest vote is saving the franchise, because every dishonest vote deprives an honest person of their vote.
I agree. I absolutely agree.
Let's let
And
him,
so-
Representative, let's let him answer the question.
Yeah, he just did.
Okay, then.
Yeah,
I think-
he just did.
Oh,
And
then-
so I agree with you. Dishonesty is dishonesty, right? Right.
Thank you, Representative. All right, Mr. Giuliani,
So she starts the question with, do you consider yourself and the president to be honest people? And yeah, in the background, you hear that person say, OMG. And I loved when the chairman, he actually refers to her as C.A. Johnson. I can't stop giggling when I hear that. But yeah, she's using, Sherry in the comment section on Facebook just said she's a bald version of Maxine Waters. Absolutely. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Grandstanding, using her time at the mic, not to ask questions, but to try and derail the entire process. Really, really shameful. Really, really shameful what she's doing. We have a couple more cuts of her, but okay, let's go to this one. This was pretty funny. This is cut 7. This is when she kept trying to interrupt, and let's count how many times the chairman has to pound his gavel to get her to stop speaking out of turn. Let's play cut 7.
Not fair, sir.
Representative
because
Riley,
our
you're gonna move
elected
on.
officials should be condemning.
I'm sorry, you're out of order, Representative. You're out of order. You're out of order. You don't have a question. You're out of order. Representative, you're out of order. You're out of order, Representative. You're out of order, ma'am. You're out of order, Representative. Representative Riley.
Thank you.
20 times. It took 20 hits of the gavel to get her to stop. 20 times. I mean, Joe, is this woman for real?
No, she's not. She's not. She's a piece of garbage, like most of the Democrat Party. Sorry, it's the way it is. I said most because there are some that are standing up. There are people that are actually Democrats that are saying there's something wrong here. That they're standing up in Pennsylvania. They're joining. They're passing over the aisle and saying, "Listen, we've got to have a conversation about these irregularities." There is stark problems in the election process. I mean, big ones, big problems right now, and we have to at some point. We have to at some point come together on both sides of the aisle and call out what it is that we are being. That our entire process, our entire political process is a sham. Our entire election process is a sham. That the FBI and the CIA and all these other organizations inside the government do not have the people's interest at heart. They don't. They've created their own little wars and their own little fiefdoms within the government, and they do things to undermine the interests of the American people. They do that for their own self-gain. They're a bunch of selfish people. That's what we're dealing with right now. And at some point, we've got to be able to stand up. And we keep talking about what does that look like, right? But this woman, she couldn't even ask a question. She couldn't even come to the place where she asked a question because facts don't matter. They wanted to have an emotional response to it. Oh, you're lying. Because that's all they have. Just like when they lose arguments, which they lose every day, they run in and say racist, fascist. When they're the fascists, they're the racists. They're the people that are pushing down opportunity on minority communities. Why is it that Democrat-controlled communities are always failing? Why?
Yeah. So this is a clip of another one of the stars of the hearing yesterday, Melissa Caroni. She was a Dominion IT worker, and she's asked a question, basically asked why aren't more witnesses coming forward? And the answer she gives is pretty obvious. Let's go ahead and play cut 8.
Representative Camilleri is asking perhaps why is it that more people, and I know we have a couple here today, but why is it that we're not having more people come forward? I mean, it seems like if there was all this widespread fraud that, we'd have dozens and dozens of people.
I'll tell you why. My life has been destroyed. My life has been completely destroyed because of this. I've lost family. I've lost friends. I've been threatened. My kids have been threatened. I've had to move. I've had to change my phone number. I've had to get rid of social media. Nobody wants to come forward. They're getting threatened.
I'm not.
Their lives are getting ruined. I can't even get an actual job anymore.
I'm not moving. I'm not moving.
Because Democrats like to ruin your lives. That's why.
All right. Let's.
Just like they do to Trump.
So.
I mean, look, I'm not moving. I'm not moving. Now, there is a benefit that I have that she doesn't have, and most people don't have, right? And that is the Constitution to be able to stand up to it. That doesn't bother me. What are they going to take away from me? Take away my birthday? I also own a gun store and range. So they're probably thinking to themselves, probably not a good idea to show up at his house. But this is the truth, Max. This is how people are treated. She had to close down her social media because of bullying. She had to close it down. This morning, I just approved a lawsuit against someone that wanted to attack someone that worked for me. I don't care if I have 20 of them. I don't care if I have 100 of them. I don't care. I'm going to hold every one of these creeps responsible. I'm going to hold them responsible. So there are lots of people that are coming forward. Every single one of those people coming forward are being threatened. I'm not an anomaly. Yeah. She's not an anomaly. This is the new American way, the new communist way. This is what we do to people. We let them bully people. I mean, I'm going to tell you the truth. I wish somebody would come to my house.
No, don't say that.
I do.
You can't say that. You can't say that because because God forbid something happens, a prosecutor could use that against you and say you were looking forward to it. The same reason. It's the same reason that in most states you're not supposed to put a sign out front your door that says "We don't call 911" with a picture of a gun.
I didn't do any of that.
You don't want to ever. I know, but you don't want to ever insinuate.
Okay, all right. Listen. I didn't say that. I said I hope somebody does, because at some point, if somebody wants to come at me, right, because I'm telling the truth, it would literally at least just show you what they are. And it'll allow me to do. It'll allow me to. I mean, look, it's pent up.
Don't say it. Just don't say it.
Well, I'm telling you what I think. I'm telling you what I think.
All right.
I'm telling you what I think.
Just know that there are people in Colorado who have been prosecuted under the premise that they wanted someone to come into their house.
I didn't say that.
They were itching for it. I know. I did not say
that. But I'm not going to give up my First Amendment right, and I'm not going to sit here and do this little skirt around the reality that I have to have people watch my family. I have to do that because of these cowards. I have to do that, right? I have to. I'm the one that has to put myself in a position where I have to defend myself all the time, all day, 24 hours a day. I have to defend myself. I have to defend my life, and I have to defend what I put in an affidavit every single day. Just think about that. And that's what that woman is saying. And she's still willing to stand up. That is a brave woman. That is someone that has a lot of courage. And that's what we have to get to as a society, that the truth matters. And that these people that want to suppress truth, that want to stop you from looking at facts, those people are the ones that should be ostracized in our community. Not the ones that come out and say, listen, we want to make sure that we put forward the truth. But it's the opposite. What's good is bad and what's bad is good. So I'm not going to apologize. I'm not going to apologize now or ever. Right? And if someone's brave enough to come to my house, then they're brave enough to come to my house. That's fine. And I didn't say, come on, bring it. I just said, I hope it happens.
I know. That a prosecutor could insinuate that.
I don't care. Then I will defend myself in a court.
There was a cop in Arizona who was actually brought up on charges because the dust cover of his AR-15, on the inside of it, he had engraved "You're effed," except he actually spelled it out. So the prosecutors went after him and said, simply putting "You're effed" on the inside of the dust cover proved that he wanted to use it against someone. So I'm just saying, there are lots of people out there who are going to want to come after you. I know.
He also won.
It's not worth the aggravation.
It is worth the aggravation because we must stand up. They must know that there are consequences to their behavior. That is what this is about. So although I agree with you, the fact that you don't invite people to your house, that's not what I said. I didn't invite anybody to my house. I'm telling them right now what's going to happen when they get to my house is on you. The consequences of you coming to my house are on you. They're not on me. And I'm not going to back down. I'm not going to back down. But I don't go out there saying, oh, yeah, I want this, I want this. That's not what I said. What I said is that the people in this country are literally put out, that stand up for what's right, or put out on a stand and told that the people get to take shots at them. And I'm just not willing to be that person. I'm never going to be that person. I'm going to continue to stand up for what I think is right.
Well, there are plenty of witnesses who they are trying to go after, trying to dox. This was a woman. We have a clip of a woman at the Michigan hearing who was talking. And once again, Sia Johnson steps in and she demands that she spell out her name and even wants to know what her maiden name was. Not for any purposes of identifying her during the hearing. She wants this for investigatory purposes. Let's go ahead and play cut 6.
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening, Miss Johnson.
Your name is Jesse...
Jacob.
Jesse Jacobs. Is that your birth name?
Okay. My first name is Jesse. When I was married, my husband's last name is Jacob. When I got married in 1983, 37 years ago, I had my maiden name. That's my dad's house name. It's a long name.
Can you spell it, please?
K-I, K like kite, I-Z-H-A.
Wow.
K-E-K-A-R-A.
Representative, what is your question, please?
I'm asking the question.
Well, please ask.
She gave a lot of information. I just want to know who she is.
Representative, please.
So they can dox her.
It's reasonable to ask.
Let's go after this person.
Yes.
I'm with you there. But now that you know it.
What was your first name?
Jesse.
Jesse.
J-E-S-S-Y, not E.
J-E-S-S-Y.
Y.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now please move on to your question, Representative.
That's it. You asked that one.
Wow.
Representative.
Wow. That's what we're dealing with, people. That.
Yeah.
So my last name is Oltmann, O-L-T-M-A-N-N. People have actually misspelled it.
People get it wrong. People only add one N.
Yeah.
So don't take an N away. There's
Yeah,
two N's.
you have to go after someone else, right?
Yeah. I feel bad for the other Joe Oltmann with one N.
Yeah.
Getting all the death threats.
Hey, Eric Coomer, the Eric Coomer that's actually a musician.
Or the Eric.
Send me a thing
Eric
saying
Comer.
I'm getting people screaming at me, and I'm like, okay, so you got one person screaming at you, and he's like, well, yeah. I'm like, okay, so what do you want me to do? He goes, well, stop talking about Eric Coomer. I'm not going to do that.
No.
I'm going to say Eric Coomer, Eric Coomer, Eric Coomer, Eric Coomer. I want everybody to put on their social media account, where is Eric Coomer? I found him. I just want you to know I found him. And for those that said that it was fake news, that he wasn't hiding, I have pictures of him coming out of hiding. Pictures. Yeah, the guy's a creep. The guy's an absolute creep.
Yeah, it's so it's amazing how like, oh no, he's not hiding. We know where he is.
No,
they
don't.
Gonna tell us where he is. Well, then you ask him. You ask the fact checkers, will you tell us where he is? And they're like, no, we're not going to tell you. So there's no actual proof that they actually know where he is. They just declare he's not.
I know
hiding.
he drives a truck. I know his truck's parked at his house.
Okay, no. Be careful. Be careful.
I didn't say anything.
Be very. Just be very careful.
I just want him to know while he's listening to this show, because I know he's listening to this show. I want him to know that we know where he is, and we know that everyone around him thinks he's a nutball. That's truth.
I'm not doing this to be argumentative. I'm doing this truly to try and have your best interest at heart.
Right.
There are lines you don't want to cross.
I didn't cross any lines.
Because you don't want to even give them an argument that you're going after the guy personally.
He personally put his fingers on the scales of this election. He has dummy accounts and dummy organizations all over the country, all over the world, right? He's done the same thing that Biden did, right? Creating shell corporations where he hides money, where money is actually transferred from one company to the next. There's forensic auditors that are coming out right now that are actually following the money of Eric Coomer. There are people in the government that are doing that investigation right now, right under the nose of the DOJ, because the DOJ won't do their job. That's why. And so, Max, there's a lot of things that are coming out right now that I just spilled out there. I believe loose lips sink ships, but I think this is something he needs to know. I think everyone needs to know that the guy has some very, very shady stuff that happens in his life. Very, very.
I'm just all I'm saying is just be careful, because saying things like "we know you drive a pickup truck" could be insinuating that you are coming for him. It could make people who are looking for a reason to go after you to find a reason in the statute to start investigating you or start harassing you. That's all I'm saying. Just be careful.
Yeah.
Just be careful. There's a way you can do this without opening yourself up for liability.
Look, and
that's all I'm saying.
Then I'm a really good guesser that he drives a truck that he hasn't driven in a while, right? I just want to follow the money. I just want to follow the money. And by the way, this isn't me doing this, by the way. This is people all over the country that are coming together as Americans and saying, listen, I need information. I need lots of information. I need to find out and validate this is true. This is why 50% of the country believes that the election was a sham. That's why.
Yeah.
It's why we're actually getting right now throttled by Facebook, throttled by YouTube. We're getting throttled. People can't get through. They can't watch the video. They have to go actually watch it on Apple. Now Apple Podcast has this, this glitch that comes up over the last couple of days when you download things. I mean, it's crazy what we're dealing with on social media, where they're banding together to stop the voice from happening. But there's Americans out there that are like, I've had enough. Like Code Monkey, Ron. I mean, the guy's amazing. There's just people that are out there just digging everything up. They're digging everything up. I mean, look at what they said about John Paul McIsaac, the guy that had the Hunter Biden laptop. They said it's a hoax. They said that what he uncovered was a hoax.
They called him a hacker.
He's not a hacker. He's not a hacker.
The crackhead didn't pay his bill.
He didn't pay his bill, and now he becomes the victim because they want to lie, because all Democrats do is lie. They lie. Yeah. They lie about everything. They cheat people. They steal from people. They oppress people. They create technology that they can weaponize against us, and we sit back and take it. I'm done taking it, and I think most people are done as well. We're just done. We're done with the BS. We're done with you taking 30, 40, 50% of our pay and giving it to other people and using it as your personal piggy bank to create wars and create things out there against the American people. They're tired. We're tired.
Yeah. I'll just say that I don't know what it is, but whenever I refer to Hunter Biden as the crackhead, producer Josh just cracks up. So I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, but he thought maybe he might have hidden that one, but I heard it. So, Joe, as we wrap up the podcast, we've talked a lot today about intimidation of witnesses, trying to get people to stay silent, trying to scare people. We just watched that Indian woman being intimidated, right? To the point where they're asking for her maiden name. You don't need someone's maiden name to understand who's speaking to you. That's so they can go back and investigate her to try and find something to use against her. Yeah. Right? Talk a little bit about what people should do, because obviously they're doing this to try and make people scared so people don't fight back, because they're trying to create the impression that if you fight back, your life's going to be over. Like Melissa Caroni, that we're going to make sure you don't have a job. We're going to scare you out of your home. We're going to turn your friends and family against you. They're trying to make it so hard, so hostile for people to step forward. You always say that courage is more infectious than fear. Speak to that as we wrap up the podcast.
Look, I think that people are going to people are starting to stand up more and more and more. And these are big lawsuits that have actually been leveled by President Trump. Big lawsuits have been leveled by just ordinary Americans, ordinary citizens, right? And courage is something that is completely infectious. People are like, look, if he can stand up, if he can go through that, I need to as well. I need to be able to stand for and next to other Americans. You'll notice something, that these Americans that are talking about communism never came from a communist society. They didn't. People that came from communism came from these communities, these countries, like the ones that were actually standing up and even in talking, that are first generation Americans, are looking and going, you don't want this. You don't want what's happening right now with this fraud. You don't, right? They're willing to stand up. These people do not have generational amounts of sacrifice that have had to happen for them to be here, right? And to have the freedoms they have, but they're standing up. So what does that tell you about those of you that might be listening that have been in this country for 100 years, that didn't immigrate to this country 10 or 20 years ago? What does it tell you about what you're not willing to do or sacrifice to stand up for the other people in this country? If we want to preserve what we have as a country, we have to be willing to have courage. We can't just say that we're too many generations away from the turmoil that we faced and the blood that was spilled in order to protect our country. We can't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, and somebody, by the way, just asked me, said, Joe, I hope you don't have hypertension. I'm a nurse. I do want to tell you, I don't have hypertension. Deborah, I am fine. I get fired up. I get very, very fired up about what we're dealing with as a country. I get fired up with it because I'm angry that I had to even do what I did, that there wasn't a system in place, a mechanism to protect the American people's vote. It's simple. That's all I care about. Like I don't expect for every Republican to win. I don't expect for us to have this red wave that wipes out Democrats. I like having a difference of opinion. I like having different perspectives. I like being able to have those conversations about those perspectives, right? And frankly, I think it's healthy for us to have a debate, but the debate has ended. They don't want to debate anymore. Now they're just attacking us. Now the war has already started. It might be a Cold War, but the civil war we're having in our society when civility was left at the door is already happening. Now they're just ramping up that rhetoric. So what we have to do is we have to have courage, and we have to be able to say to people very simply, if you want to come and you want to take my country from me, right, pack a lunch. And that's what has to happen. We have to stop people like C.A. Johnson from coming out and doing things like ridicule and bullying people that come forward with truth. Because truth is not something that is, it's not subjective. Truth is truth. You can't just, either is truth or isn't truth. Either saw it or you didn't see it. And now that you have thousands of people that have come forward, now it's time for the legislative branch. It's not time for the SCOTUS, right, to actually stand up for the American people. Step in for the history and health of our country. Because, by the way, if we don't step in, they're going to come for those people too. There's only a certain number of people that are going to be left in this deal standing on the communist side. If we don't get this under control and if we don't have accountability, we will never have another fair election if we don't stop it here. Dominion should never exist. Smartmatic should never exist after today. They should not be in any election. The Georgia runoff should not be in any of those elections.
Well, you see what they're doing in Missouri? That under Missouri law, in order for Dominion to operate in Missouri, Dominion actually has to be registered as a business in Missouri, and they haven't paid their taxes, so they've been dissolved. So they've been illegally operating as an election vendor in Missouri. So now they're trying to use that to go after them, to get a look into the code, because at that point everything they've done in Missouri would be voided, right? You can't, they're operating a business in Missouri illegally. So that's been coming out with the last 24, 48 hours. It's a promising take on it, because if it's true that they haven't paid their taxes in Missouri and they're not allowed to operate, that would give the state reason to sweep in and investigate them. Well, that's going to be it for this.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I think that, again, I think that we have to start looking at what the actions are next. And I mean, again, we've been going through this, but there is action that we need to take next. We need to take those actions. We need to make sure that we actually 100% put our foot in the ground and we stand up to this tyranny. This is what this is, this tyranny. This is something to take away our constitutional republic. That's what it is. Not our democracy, because we're never not a democracy. We've never been a democracy. And we're never going to be a democracy as long as I'm breathing and a lot of other Americans are breathing.
And Sia Johnson will never be elevated above whatever position she has now.
No. No.
Never, ever. Well, before we go, I want to remind everyone, let's put up the T-shirt. Today's episode is brought to you by the Conservative Daily Store. Still time to pick up your Come and Take It Christmas T-shirt in time for Christmas. Check out the link in the description and make sure that you show Anthony Fauci and all the leftists who want to cancel Christmas that you're not going to bend down to their will. Right now in California, they're trying to cancel Christmas, saying that everything's canceled, including Christmas. Pick up one of these shirts. It'll arrive in time for Christmas, and make sure that you stand up and fight. Well, that's going to be it for this edition of the Conservative Daily Podcast. If you like the podcast, again, please go to Apple Podcasts, link in the description, and leave us a good review. Subscribe, download there. If you don't have an iPhone, a MacBook, an iPad, you can check us out at Google Play Store, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, or Podbean. We also go live Monday through Saturday, 2 p.m. Eastern on Facebook and YouTube. So make sure you like and follow our Facebook page, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications on YouTube as well. There's a way for you to sign up to receive alerts when we go live. Text FREEDOM to 89517. You'll get a text alert. Facebook and YouTube are being funny with giving alerts. They don't like to let people know when we've started broadcasting. So if you text FREEDOM to 89517, you'll get a text alert when we go live. You can also join our email newsletter. Very important. That's how we're going to get out the word if we do get taken down for whatever reason, or we do migrate to a new platform. That's how we're going to spread the word. So make sure that you subscribe to our email newsletter as well. And finally, we are on Parler at Conservative Daily. I'm at Max McGuire. He's at Joe Altman. Follow us there because Facebook's days are definitely numbered, and Parler is probably where we're going to go. So again, that's going to be it for this edition of the Conservative Daily Podcast. My name is Max McGuire.
And this is Joe Altman.
And remember that the fight to take back our country clearly isn't over, but the only way we win is if we all stand up and fight together.